You know that feeling when someone tells you that a group of people were talking about you, and your first instinct is that it must be something bad? Or when someone says you were the most interesting person in the room that night, and you genuinely don't believe them? Not fake modesty. You actually don't believe them. You walked through that room feeling invisible. You were sure no one noticed. And then later, you find out people were watching you, wanting to talk to you, saying things about you that you never would have predicted. And you're just standing there trying to reconcile those two realities. So why is there such a massive gap between how attractive we actually are and how attractive we think we are? Today, we're breaking down the real psychological signs that you're more attractive than you realize, what's actually happening in your brain and in the brains of people around you, and what you can do with that information going forward. But before we get into it, Psychology Vault exists because we believe psychology shouldn't live behind textbooks and clinical papers. It belongs in your hands, in plain language, helping you actually understand why you feel the things you feel, why you move through relationships the way you do, and why you are the way you are. If that's what you've been looking for, hitting subscribe means you'll never miss a video that might genuinely change how you see yourself. And trust me, what we're about to get into might shift something for you in a real way. Let's go. One thing before we dive in, I left a question pinned in the comments about a moment where someone's reaction to you completely caught you off guard. If that's ever happened to you, go answer it. Takes 2 seconds, and I actually read every single reply. 1. People struggle to make eye contact with you, or they make too much of it. Psychologists call this the gaze regulation response, and it works in both directions. When someone finds another person significantly attractive, their autonomic nervous system kicks in, the part of the brain that handles automatic, involuntary reactions, and it either triggers nervous avoidance, where they look away quickly, or hyper-awareness, where they hold eye contact slightly longer than feels comfortable. Think of it like your brain's version of buffering. It doesn't know how to process the input normally, so it glitches. It's basically what happens in anime when the side character sees the main character walk into a room for the first time, and the animation just slows down. That moment where everything else fades out, that's not a creative choice. That's a very accurate representation of what attractiveness does to our nervous systems. And here's the part that sounds counterintuitive but is completely true. If someone seems unable to look at you directly, that's often a far stronger signal than someone who holds steady eye contact. Discomfort, in this context, is a compliment. 2. People treat you differently in ways you don't consciously notice. Psychologists call this the halo effect, and it is one of the most well-documented phenomena in all of social psychology. When our brains perceive someone as attractive, we automatically and unconsciously assign them other positive qualities: competence, warmth, trustworthiness, intelligence. We don't decide to do this. It just happens, and the people around you have been doing this to you without realizing it, giving you a little more patience, a little more benefit of the doubt, a little more space to be human. It's like having a permanent, invisible, passive buff in a video game. You didn't activate it. You didn't even know it was there, but it's been running in the background this whole time, quietly shaping how every interaction goes. And because it's invisible to you, because you're living inside it, you just experience life slightly more smoothly and assume that's just how things are. And honestly, the next one is the one most people never connect to their own attractiveness, but once you hear it, it's going to reframe something you've probably been misreading for a long time. 3. People get weird around you, nervous, quieter, suddenly clumsy. This is rooted in something called evaluation apprehension, the psychological experience of feeling like you're being judged by someone whose opinion suddenly matters to you. And here's what's interesting. Attractiveness instantly raises the perceived stakes of an interaction. The moment someone finds another person attractive, everything they say and do in front of that person feels like it's being evaluated. So they stumble, they over-explain, they laugh too loudly, they go quiet. If you've ever been talking to someone who suddenly became awkward and you assumed you must have said something wrong or that they didn't like you, you were probably reading it backwards. Think of it like social lag, like a Zoom call where one person's connection isn't keeping up. The content is fine, the signal is just struggling to transmit. That nervous energy isn't discomfort with you. It's discomfort caused by caring what you think. The most attractive people in any room often feel the most misread, because people's responses to them get scrambled in transit. Now that you understand why this is happening in the people around you, the next part is the most important, because this is where we talk about what's happening inside you and what to actually do with all of this. 4. You underestimate yourself in a way that is psychologically predictable. Psychologists call this self-perception bias, and specifically in attractiveness research, there's a consistent pattern. People with higher objective attractiveness ratings consistently underrate themselves, while people with lower ratings tend to overrate. It's not random. Our self-image is built almost entirely on comparison, and attractive people often compare themselves to other attractive people or to an idealized internal standard, which means the gap between where I am and where I think I should be always feels larger than it is. It's the exact same mechanic as when you're really skilled at something and you assume everyone else can do it too. The better you get, the harder it is to see how far you've come, because you keep raising the bar. Your brain isn't broken. It's just calibrated to a standard that's constantly moving. And that moving standard is often the reason you look in the mirror and see something completely different from what the room sees when you walk into it. Being truly attractive often comes with a genuinely warped self-image, not as a flaw, but as a direct consequence of how self-perception works. None of this is a character flaw. The gap between how you see yourself and how others see you isn't weakness, it's a completely predictable result of how our brains process self-image. But here's what you can actually do with this. Think about the last time someone reacted to you in a way that surprised you, a compliment you dismissed, a nervousness you misread as rejection, an eye contact that made you look away first. Instead of explaining it away, sit with it. What if that reaction was accurate, and your first instinct was the thing that was off? Think about the internal standard you're using to measure yourself. Is it a realistic bar, or is it a constantly moving one that you set higher every time you get closer to it? And if that impossible standard disappeared tomorrow, what would you have to feel instead? And finally, the next time someone treats you with more warmth, patience, or curiosity than you feel like you've earned, don't explain it away. Try receiving it, not performing humility, actually receiving it as potentially true. Attractiveness, in its fullest sense, isn't a fixed thing you either have or don't. It's something you're probably already carrying, just without the evidence feeling real to you yet. If you've ever felt invisible in a room that was actually watching you, you are not alone. That experience is far more common than anyone talks about, and it usually says more about self-perception than it does about reality. The most important shift isn't learning to believe you're attractive. It's learning to question the automatic, reflexive certainty that you're not. That question, just the question, is where everything starts to change. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, take care of yourself.